What's up, guys? If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Also, please smash that like button on the video and enjoy the show.
And we touched a staircase, and now like a girl got brought into the woods by some dude without a face. And it's like the way I like to think about it is, sometimes you text people like your parents and there's punctuation and capitalization and all this, but I write in lowercase with no punctuation.
All right, I want to start hopping on the Zen wave. You're on the Zen wave, huh?
I'm not on the Zen wave. I never had it in my life. No,
I'm surprised, man.
I never did dip in my life. I never did. I'm like, that shit looks amazing. I'm not doing that. I've been doing it all day.
Because you're a coffee fiend. I figured you'd be.
I'm not a coffee fiend. I honestly, like, I'll have some on the desk when I'm recording, and then sometimes I'll have it midday when I'm working, but I water down my coffee now. Like, because I don't like having the idea of like having to rely on caffeine. So there was a point last spring where actually for the first time I felt like I was like habitually going and making like a strong coffee like every day at like 2 o'clock. And I was like, there's no way, like coffee's good for you, but like not when you're all the time on it. That's kind of my thought. But
so you don't have a crutch with like anything really.
I try not to.
Good.
Yeah, I try not to.
I mean, you don't need it, bro. You have your crazy photographic memory and you're locked in. This guy has a brain like nobody else. Dude. He knows the episode number of what our first when I was on his podcast.
Oh yeah,
it was about 3 years ago. He knows that.
I'll give you the timestamp.
Yeah, exactly.
All day.
It's not even a joke, dude. It's insane.
Yeah, but actually, right before we begin, because we have the Dougie Corrado in here. Welcome to New Jersey, by the way.
Appreciate it. It's very fun to be here. I love it. I love it here.
You know what? That's the first person to say that in a while. I appreciate it.
I swear,
I was losing some pride in Jersey.
This area is beautiful. Like I love it a lot.
Record this.
Yeah. I thought we were going. I thought you did a slow roll.
We are recording. Yeah. That's funny. But yeah, Hoboken's like a fun little town. There's only like 60,000 people here.
The view of Manhattan, you get to see all the prettiness without all the gross. It's fantastic.
Right. But your channel's awesome. We're going to talk about that today. Yeah. You're like, what do you call yourself? The story boy?
They call me story boy. Chop chop story boy.
Love that. So we're going to go through like your life is kind of interesting too. Like you've done some wild shit. But before we begin, I got to shout out. You probably heard at the beginning we have a little co-host today. My man Johnny Drinks, aka John Rondi.
What's up, everybody? I'm gonna take a back seat though today. I'm just spectating. I'm gonna chime in when I feel necessary, but it's your guys' show.
I appreciate that.
John's got a great TikTok and YouTube that we were looking at before. But I do got to say this because like you understand, and obviously John understands too. But like when you start content, you're starting on zero. You start with nothing. You're trying to get somewhere. So I was dropping myself off for like 7 months before I had anyone listening to this thing, and about 4 months in, a friend of mine connected me with John, who had already blown up online, and he had never known me before. Drove down 2.5 hours to South Jersey to my parents' house, sat there for 3.5 hours on camera, another 4 hours off camera.
That was the longest day. That was about 8 hours. And then, you're right, dude. I didn't even know you. I don't know what made me even do it. I mean, I guess you were the homie, or who connected us?
It was Mitch.
Mitch?
No.
Was it Mitch or Fenyu?
It was Fenyu, but you knew Mitch.
Right, and I was like, yeah, of course, come by. It was an 8-hour day. And
because of production or because you guys liked each other?
We were just talking. We were shooting.
Yeah.
But I want to say that because, everyone has to have people who help them along the way and, take a shot and stuff. And you were one of the many people to do that. But as a creator, like, the biggest creator we had on forever, like even maybe to this day in some ways. So
I appreciate that.
I really appreciate that, bro. And now we live like a half a mile apart here. So
we do stuff like this.
It's nice and easy to be in the neighborhood.
Absolutely, man.
But Dougie, tell people what your channel is because it's so unique. Like when Alessi showed it to me, I'm like, what the is this? And then we started watching it, and I'm sitting there like, it
keeps
addictive.
You right.
Yes.
Okay, so how do I explain it? I make it seem real, and you can't tell which stories are real and which stories aren't. Because some of them are real and some of them aren't. But we don't clarify whatsoever. So if you watch one that's from my childhood or something along those lines, you watch and you're like, well, he's telling this like this happened to him because it did. Fully 100% happened to me, and I'm just telling it from my perspective with a lot of emotion and attention and like eye contact, and I'm scaring the people. And then I get to one that seems a little bit paranormal or like something like, oh, on this trip something happened in the woods that seemed like a cryptid or something along those lines. And I tell it in the exact same manner. So they can't tell. And then the descriptions I put, this is a firsthand encounter when me and my friend Sam, who's an Army Ranger, who's just this tactical-minded guy, and who's a real friend of mine. So I just plug my real friends into these stories.
Whoa.
And then now we're in Michigan, and we touched this staircase and now like a girl got brought into the woods by some dude without a face. And you know what I'm saying? Like it just gets a little bit weird.
Where does this come from? Like what is it in you that pulls out stories like that when they're not real?
I think it came from growing up in Chicago where everything is dangerous everywhere. So you were going over every scenario in your head and like, all right, if that guy presses me, if he does this, I'm going to do this. I'm going to figure this out. And then you're just kind of like constantly preparing for days or preparing for commutes. I'm going to the loop. This might happen. I'm worried about this. I'm on the train. I'm looking around. This guy's doing this. And you start making these scenarios in your head over and over again all day. So it's like paranoia. Right. And then you just get used to like then it's just like how my mind operates. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you have people in the comment section like hopping on, like let's say it's a fake story?
Yeah.
Do you have somebody being like, yeah, I heard of this? Like I was
Yes.
you do.
Yes.
And they're just
You go, this is fact. You could see it in his eyes that it's true.
That's insane.
Yes.
I love when people like try to pick things apart and they're so wrong and you're like, yeah, dude, you got this one.
Yeah, that was good. Yeah, that's every day. Every day.
The other thing you do is like your tone is so perfect because you're scripting these things out and you read it fast, but you're doing it like you'll memorize a line and then say it. But your tone is like bah, 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 bah. And I always think about like when I've done voiceovers, it's hard when you have to then go cut in something because your tone changed. You know what I'm talking about, John. But you keep it where it's like somehow it has the perfect like iambic pentameter in a way.
Yeah. The way we do that is I'll either write or I have my girl write and I lay on the floor.
We got your girl in studio today, by the way.
She's 50% of this. She deserves just as much credit as I do.
That's awesome.
I lay on the floor and she types and I speak in my own voice. So she writes how I talk. And then she says the line, then I say the line. So that I'm able to actually say it as if I'm saying it.
That's genius.
Does that make sense? So I'm not like writing a novel. He said this and then we went here and the look on his face was delicate and sensitive. Like, no, it's like this guy looked weird as shit.
Right.
And then she'll type that out and say it back to you.
Yes.
Yeah, that's such a misconception too. Like if you read great authors sometimes, I'll give you an example. If you read like the book, The Da Vinci Code, right? If you've seen the movie before, obviously there's like in your head, you're picturing Tom Hanks, Robert Langdon playing him, and you see how they said the things in the movie.
Yeah.
But then you read the book, which is an award-winning book and phenomenal by Dan Brown. And the one thing is the dialogue is not real. Like once you're picturing them saying it out loud, it's very robotic. It's very robotic and like not how people would talk, because when you're just sitting there typing without actually talking it out to yourself, you tend to, exactly like you said, you tend to put things in a different word form.
Yeah. People will tell me to like put out a book, do something like this. We'll buy a hardcover. And I'm like, that's like buying a text message from me. You know what I'm saying? It's literally just how I talk.
Okay, so, you're saying it's like completely the same. That I've never done this, so I don't know. But that's such a good way to, because I think of almost like when parents write up texts, it's like, that's not you.
Yeah, it's formal.
Yeah, and they try to become something they're not, and like you're doing the complete opposite. Yeah, and that's why your stories feel so organic. Like I am just listening to you tell a 5-minute story off the top of your head.
And it's like the way I like to think about it is, sometimes you text people like your parents, and there's punctuation and capitalization and all this, but I write in lowercase with no punctuations. You know, the people in text that just have the lowercase, and you're like, oh, that kind of looks cool. How'd you do that? I don't even know how to change it in my phone, but whenever somebody does lowercase, I'm like, how'd you change that setting? That's how we write. It's all lowercase. Yeah.
Oh, that's so smart, man.
Yeah. And so, it all came from stories. And he told me that you guys realized stories is what was working. Yeah,
that was when I was making the clips John, you were there when I was first doing them in February 2021. As I had one go viral in April 2021. It was good. Yeah. It didn't feel like amazing. I thought it would feel amazing. I was like, okay, well, we got to make the next one. But that's it's pretty cool.
You're like, what? No.
Yeah, exactly. I've never really felt anything when they go viral. But then I would see that I'd hit some clips. Like I'd make clips with the same quality. This is like now April, May, June into July 2021. I'd make clips of all the same quality, but some would like do half watch time and the other would do 100% and go viral. And I'm like, what is this? And then it hit me. I put out 3 clips successively. Is that a word? Yeah. Allowed to say it?
I understand.
What is that? Whatever it is.
Talk to lowercase.
But I put out 3 clips at the end of July. One with my friend Ashton Larold, and then 2 with my guy Jim DiOrio. And Ashton told a visual story that went very viral. It wasn't so much a story as it was he was creating visuals that made it seem narrative, right? Okay. So he was talking about his having trouble with suicide. And he talked about how I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to be alive. It's almost like you're in a car and you're driving, but it's like, and you have anxiety, depression, all these things back there. You're controlling the wheel though, not them. So people were picturing this and I'm like, whoa. And then with Jim, he's telling a story about September 15th, 2001, when he did a takedown of an Al-Qaeda cell in Jersey, right? And so he's like, so we go to the door. And I was like, oh. So I see this and I'm like, oh my God. I'd had a guy in about a month before, John Borick, who was this Emmy-winning sportscaster in Philly. And in the middle of the conversation, we were just getting lit on camera, so it was like whatever. But in the middle of the conversation, I said to him, what was your favorite part about your career? And he said, like, very seriously, he goes, telling people stories. I'm a storyteller. That's what I want. I want to know what makes people tick and how they got there. And I thought about that. And then I put these clips together and I was like, stories. And then I went back to every clip that had gone viral. And if it wasn't a story, it painted a perfect visual that you could make a narrative. So then I started working in all the B-roll and stuff like that. And that was kind of it. So yeah, when we were looking at this, we're like, all right, this guy gets it. Steve Jobs said, storyteller runs the world.
Yeah. So when we first started going viral, I was a little embarrassed when I started to have to make ones up. And I felt a little bit weird about it because I was like, all the other ones, I was like proud of them. Like, this is, they think I'm cool. They think the me and my friends did was cool, you know? And it made me feel a little bit more unique, right? And I was like, I guess I had an interesting upbringing.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.